All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the East Coast Red and Gold podcast. I'm Niners Jess. Ty Alston is inactive tonight. Maddie B is with us, and your girl Bex is inactive tonight. What's going on, Maddie?
I feel like Christian McCaffrey all of a sudden. I feel like all of a sudden I gotta run, I gotta catch, I gotta do all of it all of a sudden. I feel like you and I, it's like Debo and Christian McCaffrey and everybody else is on the injured list, right? Like that's what it feels like. Debo can run and catch, Christian can run, catch, and also throw. So I mean that's what I feel like I feel like that's what we're doing tonight.
Yeah, we're a little bit of everything tonight. We do have some stuff to talk about, which is good.
Oh, you think? You
Um,
think we got some stuff to talk about?
yeah,
Whew, boy, do we got some
just
stuff to talk about.
just the little things. Um, First, let me say hello to some people in the chat. Rob D, what's going on? We got Throwback in the house. He says, thanks for tuning in, faithful. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe. Thank you. Dawn, what's up? Sin, how you doing? All right. So as people come and, start to come in, um, let's go over, I know I said position by position and stuff like that, but let's go over the coaches
Yeah,
because there was one surprise
yeah,
that is not on the list, and
correct.
that's Brian Greasy.
Yes.
Which I thought this list would be a lot better if they added like the entire coaching staff and not just, the promotions, because I didn't see Chris Kosarek on this list either, and I just almost like fell over.
Yeah, there was a lot of like there was a lot of whatever, but it was just when I noticed the first thing I noticed about the whole thing was that there was a quarterbacks coach. And the last I had heard on Brian Greasy was he was not interested in interviewing for the Jets job.
Right.
That was it. I there was nothing, absolutely nothing that led me to believe that he was going to be walking away. But apparently he's walking away. He doesn't want to now. So
Yeah, he stepped away to be with his family, which is
yep,
fine. Um he did interview for the OC job in Michigan.
that's going to be a little closer to home probably, and that's probably a place he could probably settle down a little bit cheaper than he could in the Bay Area too. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, true.
And
I
I don't know
think
what,
he'll be
and
back
I
in the
don't know.
coaching world.
And look, I'm in love with you. I don't know what the salary is for a quarterbacks coach, right? I don't know what that is, and I don't know how much it has to be for you to be able to afford to live there. So, yeah, I get it. I understand. And if his family's on another part of another place, then you know that makes a lot of sense too. So we'll see. Or maybe he ends up going to yeah, call. You're starting to see a lot of guys. They're just going to college. I think they think college is going to be the new place to go. You're seeing a lot of guys do that now. Like they're going to take college jobs at different places. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. It's almost like college football is really going to start to become like, I mean, it's always been kind of like this quiet part out loud that it's kind of like the minor league. It's like the Trenton Thunder or whoever that. What are they now? The Patriots of something, the Somerset Patriots.
Yeah.
Um, like they're the Pawtucket Red Sox now. It's the Worcester Red Sox, but you get it. Like it's the minor league teams for the pro game, and they're going to go there and kind of work their way back, or go there and hang out for a while because apparently they think there's money to be made there. It's real interesting right now to see like how some of these coaching staffs are moving, and then also seeing guys come off of coaching college coaching staffs and move up here. So there's some interesting stuff. Also, it's crazy to me that Mick Lombardi has had so many jobs with so many different places and is actually returning to the 49ers now.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Brian Greasy will go back in the booth. We'll see. But I think all these coaches do pretty well.
Yeah, I like the Kubiak thing. Um, I like the way the offense looked, when he called plays. Like I think there's something to be said for that. And if that takes something off of Kyle's plate, Look, you know what? Let's look at it like this. Okay, let's look at it like this. Let's step back and try to look at the big picture, which is something I really struggle with. What's up, David? What if he's going to be trusting Kubiak more with the offense and the actual offense and the play calls and everything like that? And Kyle's going to be more of a quarterback coach this year, along with Lombardi, as opposed to Kyle having to like bury himself, thigh deep in the game plan, right? Every week. Like maybe Kubiak can handle some of that. And he also isn't going to have to be like micromanaging the defense this year. Like to me, like a lot of people be like, oh, well, you're going to lose out on the, you're going to lose out on continuity for Brock. Maybe Brock needs someone new to challenge him a little bit. Maybe he'll get pushed a little bit more. You know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
it takes that next step. That it's very rare that guys keep their quarterback coach and their offensive coordinator and whatever. This is kind of one of those unique situations where you have an offensive-minded head coach. So I think this gives him a chance to really focus on working with Brock this year. So to me, if Kyle is the offensive guru that we all think he is, to me that just means that you're probably going to have a really good season from Brock Purdy.
We're not saying that Kyle's going to give up control because
No.
he's still going to call the plays, but just to have Clay Kubiak, put some more input in there.
Yeah, Rob, I said he doesn't need to be knee deep in the offensive game plan now. Okay. He's probably still going to be ankle deep. Let's just go ahead and just start there. He's a head coach. He's going to be in there. And he's also a control freak. So he's probably going to be involved with that too. But if he trusts Kubiak to call plays, he's probably going to trust him to design stuff. What's he going to do? Script the first 15? My guess is he's probably going to script the first 15 and get out of the way and jump in only if he thinks is needed, right? I would much rather have my head coach available to be able to help as needed, as opposed to him being a part of something primarily all the time. So if something goes wrong, like then he's going to divert attention away from that, whatever, like that. That doesn't work for me. That just doesn't work for me. And I think the coaching staff this year is definitely going to be upgraded. I don't know if Lombardi is an upgrade over Greasy. I think Greasy did a great job. I think we should thank Brian Greasy because he was one of the ones who said Brock Purdy. He had Brock Purdy number 1 on his board in 2022. So, and I like Gus Bradley as assistant head coach, and Gus Bradley to me is better than Brandon Staley, right? And Robert Saleh is definitely better than Nick Sorensen. And
1,000%.
I like all the moves at this point. I would have liked to see Greasy come back, but whatever. I'm real interested to see what that scrappy Jake Lynch is able to do.
Yeah, Jake Lynch, John Lynch's son. But like you said, Brian Greasy was able to, put Brock where he is, now, help him out. But, maybe Mick will give him, something a little different.
Mick did work with Tom Brady. I'm sure like at some point, maybe there's going to be something he's able to glean from that, right? Like
that's true.
There's got to be something. Maybe if it's just one thing that makes him a little bit better, I'm totally down with it. But yeah, I don't think Kyle's going to look as frazzled this year unless they just have a terrible year and they don't play well again. Everybody gets injured. Like it seemed to me like he was overworked last year. Like every time you saw him at a game, every time you saw him on the sideline, like he just looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. And he typically didn't.
He looked very defeated.
Yeah. And he didn't look like that in previous years. Like it looked like he was tired before he even thought about being tired, right? Like it was already there. So I think being in that's going to happen when you're a good team because you're going to have these huge brain drains. You're going to lose a Mike McDaniel. You're going to lose a Brian Greasy, just because he wants to leave and be closer on the East Coast. But you're also going to lose guys all the time just for, they're going to get hired by other teams or promoted by other teams. That's why we keep getting 3rd round picks for things. So it's part of the drill, and he knows that. And you're going to have roller coasters with that where you're up and down on the staff. But I think they've done a really good job reorganizing and getting things moving. And like I said, I really like the fact that Kubiak did end up getting the job, and more importantly, is did a good job calling the plays last year. Maybe that opens it
You
up a bit.
know, well, you mentioned, coaches are going to leave and stuff like that because our staff tends to get poached a lot. But, not every year we're going to have a Nick Sorensen. So not every year Kyle's going to feel defeated
Yeah,
because he
Nick's
has to, micromanage defense, micromanage. So, I mean, at
I
least this year, I'm actually really looking forward to what the offense is going to bring because I think the offense gets back on track this year. Um, and the defense with Robert Sala coming in on the defense, like that's just, you know, you don't even have to say anything about that because we all know what Robert Sala brings to the table. And John Lynch said today that it was like he never left. And he's even better. I'm paraphrasing here, but he's even better, this time around because of what he's experienced. So I'm really, really excited to see what else he brings for the defense.
look, that's one of the things that I just remember about those 90s 49ers, specifically that 94 team. I remember them making sure that they had the best coaches, right? They went out and got the best players, everybody that was on the market. They really went all in to win that year. And this to me, and doing what they did there, that's kind of an all-inish move to me. You know what I mean? Going and wait, as what was it John Lynch said, sloppy eighths. Like he had to wait for so many different interviews and everything with Saleh today. Making sure that he didn't get the Jaguars job and all this other stuff to wait for him. And we ragged on him at the time because they were losing, plan B and plan C and plan D to everybody else. And plan A was still possibly going to be a head coach somewhere, but they slow played it and they won. They got their guy. And then they get a Gus Bradley who gets let go, who's been a head coach, been a defensive coordinator. Shoot, that's not bad to add to the defense. I feel like it wasn't just last year with Sorensen either. Okay, Nick Sorensen's going to get some heat, and rightfully so. But I also think that for whatever the reason, I don't know if it's because it was warranted or just because, again, OCD control freak. I think he felt the need to interject himself in the Steve Wilkes defense last year as well.
True.
So I feel like he was burning the candle at both ends in back-to-back years because like there was too much, as Wilkes gonna be the booth, he's gonna be on the sidelines, he's gonna be the booth on sidelines. Like he shouldn't have to keeping the energy up and having your defensive guy keep the energy up the way you want it isn't going to work for you. And if it's Kyle, to me, seems like the type of guy that like he'll deal with something for a while, but if it doesn't change, it just pisses him off to no end, and he'll just basically hold you until he can let you go at the end of the year, right? Like I feel like he'll make that decision by game 4 once he's done with you. You know what I mean? But he'll just let you hang out for the rest of the year. Like that seems to be the type of like thing that happens here. In this case, you're not going to have to worry about the energy on the defense for the first time since 2022, right? Since D'Amico Ryan's left for Houston. There was a distinct difference in that defense when D'Amico Ryans walked out that door. It wasn't just Robert Saleh. We all forget about D'Amico Ryans. Nobody was expecting D'Amico Ryans to be hired as the head coach of the Houston Texans, except for me and Jess, because we watched the folks from the Houston Texans walk into the playoff game for the Cowboys and 49ers because they were there in case the 49ers lost because they wanted to get him signed to a contract. Instead, they had to sit there and watch the game and just see what he did, and then they had to keep waiting. We watched. They held up the whole line while the entire Houston Texans cadre went walking in. Like we knew something was up at that point.
They were just in front of us.
Yeah, they weren't there to scout anybody. I can tell you that much. Like there was no one there to scout, and maybe they were there to scout some free agents, but that was a lot of firepower to be there to scout free agents. Let's put it that way. So that was one of those deals where it looked like they weren't even going to let him get on the plane. So
Rob D says there's no more Saban and Harbaugh, so college seems more friendly now.
Until somebody else pops up and goes crazy. I'm telling you right now, if Belichick stays at North Carolina, that Jordan money is going to pump through there like oil money through Saudi Arabia, man. All the time. And then you're going to see Michael Jordan on everything, and everything else, and North Carolina football will become absolutely ridiculous.
Terror Dome. What's going on?
Notre Dame could get to that point too. Marcus Freeman seems like a guy that everybody wants to play for.
True.
So, and we don't know what school's just going to, whip out some money and just decide that they're going to be good, right? What if some mega billionaire just decides one day that the Marshall Thundering Herd should be the greatest college football team in all of sports and just dumps $1 billion NIL into something, right? That could happen. That could happen anywhere. Somebody could just decide one day that, Montana State's the new Alabama and give them the DX crotch chop and drop a bunch of money. It could happen at any point, anywhere. And if there's one thing that university alumni like to do, it's spend money on their university for sports bragging rights. Never underestimate those egos, friends. Never underestimate those egos.
David McNiner says, wasn't Brandon Staley assistant head coach? Yes, but now Brandon Staley is the DC of the New Orleans Saints. Chris Forrester must be on the chopping block. I don't think so. He just wasn't given
promoted.
A new title.
Yeah.
He was given a new title, assistant head coach, offensive line. I missed that. Look at that.
Chris. Well, you didn't see Chris Kachurik on there either.
Yeah, Chris Kachurik is still defensive line coach.
Right.
But
hopefully they give him some defensive linemen to coach this year.
It's true.
This is the defensive lineman draft. I want them to go hard into that defensive line. Like this is like copying homework. Papa J. This is like copying homework. Like you can literally just watch what Philadelphia did and copy their homework, but you got to hit your guys, right? So I would go fishing in the D line as much as I possibly could this year. Same thing with the O line. And you know what? This is going to be the hottest of the hot takes, but I think the number 11 pick should either be Ty Warren or the kid from Boise State, Ashton Gianti.
No.
Why not?
I don't think that they go Tyler Warren or Gianti. I think
each one of those guys would be an offensive weapon. And I keep going back to that interview that Chris Forster, the guy that you were talking about, was mentioning. Why doesn't Kyle ever go up big on defensive linemen or offensive linemen? And he goes, because he wants the talent guys. Who did he draft last year? Ricky Pearsall. Yeah, they had a need at wide receiver, but they do tend to like to go talent positions early, skill positions early. To me, Ty Warren and Gianti, either one of them would be great there.
I don't see it. I think either Graham from Michigan or Walter Nolan. We are doing well, Papa J. How are you doing? Let's see. Tony G in the house. What's up? He says no Bobby Turner or KJ Wright. This list is just the list of the coaches that got promoted that
Correct.
have like new titles. It kind of threw me off as well. But yeah, Bobby Turner's still there. KJ Wright is still there. In fact, KJ Wright is probably a candidate, whenever for DC, whenever Robert Saleh moves on for another head coaching gig. I'm not saying he wouldn't be. Warren would be a great addition to the offense, but I just don't see them. I would actually be surprised if they took him at 11.
I mean, I would be too. Don't tell me that like I would like to see them do that, but I honestly think they're going to be looking at one of those skill positions. I think they're going to look for a high impact corner there, or they'll grab somebody on the offense. Like I said, I would love to see the kid from Boise State come in. Like the amount of load that would take off of Christian McCaffrey. You could let Christian McCaffrey just decide if he wants to be a slot receiver or a running back on any single play. Think of the flexibility and the nightmare matchups that you could do. Or you get Ty Warren, and you get Ty Warren on one side, and you got George Kittle on the other. Imagine George Kittle with a competent tight end too, Jess. Imagine that for just a second.
That
Imagine
that
that.
sounds nice because we haven't had that since George Kittle was drafted.
Imagine a quarterback that could take the tush push forward. Ty Warren can do that. It's not just a matter of like, I mean, he could be like a high-powered Taysom Hill, only with fantastic tight end skills. Like, I like it a lot. I always go back and wonder how much different the 49ers would be if they had drafted Kyle Pitts, and how much different Kyle Pitts' career would be in lieu of trading for Trey Lance. 97
True.
picks for Trey Lance.
Going back to Brian Greasy, Kelly says he was missing his family help with the development of Brock. He did his job. Yeah, he did.
He did. Shout out to Brian Greasy. Anytime you see Brian Greasy hanging out in the Bay Area, you should offer to buy him a beverage, a frosty one.
Terradome says that he's not a Forster fan at all. He is the Jake Brendel, the coaching staff. That's actually that's a kind of funny comparison. I like that. Terradome says, "Ouch, Pitts versus Lance."
Don't you like? One of them, like even if Pitts had like fallen, you still would have had another 3 first-round picks to go, right, or anything like that.
McNiner says we'll hear him cheer if we go O-line at 11, but thinking D tackle Nolan or Grant. No to Grant. Don't want him. What's up, CG? Says Jake Brendel got to go.
Poor Jake Brendel.
Well, you know what? We'll see what free agency brings, but hopefully, you know, this year it's Jake Brendel. A few years ago was Mike McGlinchey.
What did you think of the re-signing of Ben Bartch? I thought that was a really good move, and I thought that was a really cheap deal, and he was very productive at the end of last year.
I thought it was a very underrated signing.
I mean, that was for like what, less than $6 million or some shit? Like,
yeah.
That's crazy, Jess.
And he did really well before his injury too. So that's actually, I was happy to see that. I mean, I know a lot of people are just like, "Oh, Ben Bartch," but he really did his job. Another one who did his job.
Those are the guys that I like to call them they're like the plumber's glue, right? They get the pipes together. So you got Trent Williams on one side, you got a guy next to him, right? And then that gets you to a really good center who gets you to the next guy, who gets you to the next tackle, right? You've either got a really good right guard or you've got a really good right tackle to pair with your left tackle and a smart center, right? And then you can pretty much do everything you need to do. They're so close. They're so close to having it. They have got to upgrade the center position, and just the center position is really where it's at this point, right? Like, because they've got some good stuff on that line between Pooney and Bartch. Williams is coming back healthy and motivated, according to John Lynch today.
He's ready to roll.
He's ready to roll. It sounds to me like a whole bunch of people are pissed off and ready for Bear, and they get a last place schedule to get right on. Like, this is setting up, unless they screw them with one of the worst travel schedules of all time, which I do not put past the National Football League in their AI schedule making. This is setting up. This is setting up to be a big one. You got the Rams, who don't even know if they're going to have who their quarterback's going to be next year. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You know, we should probably talk about what's going on with the other teams. But I like what we're doing coaching wise, and I like what we're doing with everything else so far. I like the kickoff. It's the Ben Bartch thing. That's a good move to start with. Good move.
Yeah, I agree with you, Terradome. I think Ben Bartch is better than Banks.
Oh, bang for the buck for sure. And Banks is a free agent, right?
Yes, he won't be back.
He will not be back. He will be in Houston. He'll sign in Houston for probably $45 million.
You know, I would love to have Drew Dolman But I don't know. Some people say that he may be asking for or asking for too much. Let's see. Terradome says Forster keeps saying Brendel is good. You're not seeing what you see. Brendel is good. Well,
Look, you're preaching to the
you know,
choir, man. You're preaching to the
yeah, that
choir on that. Like,
exactly.
for real.
But like, and two, like, I don't want to be like one of those people that like, well, what else is he gonna say? You know? But
It's true though. Like, what else is he gonna say? Jake
yeah,
Brendel's trash. We got to get his ass out of there. Like, he'd be out of a
he's
job in
awful.
2.2 seconds. Like, he is trash.
He's like Mike McGlinchey
I have
2.0.
done every single Mr. Miyagi coaching trick that I can possibly do to get him to perform at a level that is at least competent and or not terrible, and I can't make it happen. So it's either me or him, and I'm going to go ahead and point to the rest of my record and compare him to it and say, I think it's him. But he can't do that. So I will.
Jason says while Dolman would be a good addition, something about Hennessy's 2-year deal makes him think we are not making a push for him. Yeah,
That could be a
that's true.
possibility too. Maybe they start. Maybe they're going to spackle, I think the word is I want to use. Maybe they're just going to spackle that offensive line again, but maybe they're going to spackle it with good guys this time, which is possible. You could go bargain shopping in the National Football League for offensive linemen. There's a lot of them. You know, they get hurt or they just get run out for some reason because a coaching staff changes or whatever. Like, you know, if they know a system and they can come in and do it, like Ben Barch got hurt in Jacksonville and now all of a sudden he got it together with the 49ers. And
Yeah.
he's got a pretty decent deal. You get a couple more guys like that, and you fill those roster spots with him and a Dom Pooney. You can afford to carry a Trent Williams at an inflated number, right? So Dom Pooney's making almost nothing this year and next year. So yeah,
Hallie says draft McKivitz replacement. I know people aren't going to like this, but McKivitz actually had a decent year.
yeah. McKivitz is not McGlinchey. Like he's not Randy Cross by any means, but like he's not Mike McGlinchey. The only Notre Dame guy I never wanted them to draft. Like it was the only one that I audibly groaned when they drafted him. I was like, oh no, you fell for it. It's exactly what I said on draft day. You fell for it.
CG says McKivitz isn't bad. He has been at times, but like I said, I think he had a decent year.
I think if you
And
improve the rest of that line with him, I think if you upgrade at center, like look, if Hennessy's an upgrade over Brendel at center, will we all take it? I will, right?
yeah,
If Trent Williams is healthy, I think that elevates that line a little bit too. Like that's another thing. When Trent Williams is not in there, that offensive line is going to be different. They cannot do the things that they can do when Trent Williams is out. It's the same thing with this offense. When Christian McCaffrey is out, they cannot do the same things that they can do. There's other guys and they can do other stuff, but Christian McCaffrey and Debo was the other one when we saw when they tried to hand it off to Juwan Jennings in a playoff game a couple of years ago, or in a regular season game a couple of years ago, because as you know, Juwan Jennings from the tailback role is super productive. Like Brandon Allen with a broken finger in the snow against Green Bay. But
you're never going to forget about that.
There are certain questions that just I need answers to, and I'm going to get the answer someday, Jess. I'm going to get the answer someday. I've got a story for you off. By the way, I have a story for you off the air. I cannot tell it to you on the air because it will. I have a story for you off the air about the Brian Griese thing.
Okay.
I don't. It's nothing. It's nothing bad in terms of Brian Griese. It's an interesting story. Let's put it that way. And I'm going to send you the screenshot. And you're going to get a kick out of it. We'll put it that way.
Awesome.
Yes.
Papa J has a really good question. How much do we give credit to Pooney for McKivitz's success this year? I think that
he heard what I was saying. He heard what I was saying. You're right.
But look at Justin Smith and Aldon Smith, right? Like one took the double teams, the other one freed up, and kind of you're always going to have somebody, hopefully, that kind of boost your game or helps out or, like, I don't know. What do you think, Maddie?
Having Pooney on that side, he heard me with the spackle. Like sometimes it can't work out perfectly where you're spackling evenly. Sometimes it's going to go to Trent Williams, and then it's going to take a while to get to Tom Pooney, right? But that's two pretty. That's two more offensive linemen that a lot of teams have. Let's just put it that way, right? Everybody has. Let's just say everybody in the league has an average offensive line. Now go ahead and add Dom Pooney and Trent Williams to any current team's offensive line. They're going to be better immediately, right? So if you give Kelton McKivitz a really good guard next to him, watch out. Like that's going to help him immensely because Pooney maybe can clear some stuff up, or maybe Pooney's getting double teamed and McKivitz can clean some stuff up on the other thing. So that's great stuff. And Pooney's going to only improve too. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
He's only going to get better at this point.
I mean, towards the end, I think he ran into that like rookie wall.
Yes, because that's going to happen. And look, the rookie wall this year, you didn't really see it for Jaden Daniels because he was able to just kind of glide through it, right? But
Yeah.
it's also because he processes things at such an insanely high speed that defenses were throwing things at him, and it took him a quarter and a half to 2 quarters to figure it out. If you go back and look at the Jaden Daniel first half stats, the second half stats through that second part of the year, especially that lower funk there, or that first matchup against the Eagles as an example, like it was pretty. Whoa, hey! It took him a while to get going, but it was like an old car. Like as soon as it got started, man, that thing was not shutting down. So, but they're in a playoff hunt, right? That stuff can get you by. It's tough when you're watching all the star players around you drop like flies and you're losing games left and right for ridiculous reasons, right? And then you go and play back-to-back weeks in the snow in Green Bay and Buffalo. Like, has anyone ever had to do that in NFL history where they've had to go to Green Bay and Buffalo in back-to-back weeks in November and December?
Maddie, that's something you should already know.
I keep thinking about it and I'm like, this is like historically insane odds. Like it looks cool on the schedule, but you're like, whoa, wait a minute. You mean you're gonna take a team from the West Coast, they're gonna play in Green Bay, and then the next week you're gonna have them play Buffalo. That's nuts. Absolutely nuts. Everything was against this team this year. And they fought the
Yeah.
good fight, but the injuries they got this year, nothing was career ending, as far as I know. Everybody seems to be healthy and ready to go for next year. It's and they've got a game plan, whatever that game plan is. I think it's a stock up on defensive linemen. I think you're going to see a glut of defensive linemen get signed via free agency. People are like, oh, there's going to be trades. I don't think there's going to be a lot of trades. I think you're going to see guys like Joey Bosa and guys of that ilk. Maybe even Trey Hendrickson. I'll tell you what, you get Trey Hendrickson and Joey Bosa in here, kind of like the way you got Richard Dent and Charles Mann in 94. Well, then you've got a little help and some rotations on that line for Nick Bosa. Get somebody nasty to play down low. Get yourself a mean defensive tackle. Good
McNiner, I think they're going to plug Ben Barch at left guard. I don't think they would move McKivitz. Tony G, hey. What about the special teams coach? Yeah, well, apparently he got good praises from Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, and special teams coaches around the league.
Hey,
I mean,
one of the highlights for the Jets was their special teams.
Yeah,
no joke. That's not me being a snarky, jerk. Just because it's the Jets and it's easy to do that. They really did have good special teams. Their special teams kept them in quite a few games, actually. Imagine having that as a thing, right? Imagine getting a positive contribution from your special teams. Speaking of special teams, John Lynch had some stuff to say about Jake Moody today.
Yeah, he did. Throwback says Jake Moody's back. Well, he didn't rule out the fact that they would bring in competition. But they seem to think that his injury, his high ankle sprain, was pretty much the cause of what went on, because he was 14 for 15 before the injury, and then afterwards he was terrible. Um, I just hope they don't draft a kicker.
They
That's I
draft a
think that's like
kicker. I'm
I think
I'm
that's like my fear.
if they draft a kicker, I'm going out to Dwight Clark Legacy Night, and I'm going to take the microphone, and I am just going to ask what is happening. Why do we continue to waste draft picks on kickers? Like, you can find these people on the street. Stop it. Get help.
Yeah, I agree. Um, CG
Hopefully they
says
get him a sports psychologist too, by the way, because it wasn't just the injury. He legitimately needs to
yeah,
talk to
I
a
think he
sports
was
psychologist.
Yeah, I think he was in his own head.
Oh,
CG said Dolman might demand too much. I agree, but the 49ers got to pursue him. I think they're going to be, involved with just about everybody. You're going to see like all these names pop up, and the 49ers being at least one of the teams that are trying to pursue. But I do believe that we draft a center for sure. I don't know when, but I definitely believe we draft a center. Um,
I believe in the way they develop offensive linemen. It's not always perfect, but they get them all to be functional starters, and other teams want them and pay big money. Now, whether or not they go out and earn it is on them, but they're doing the thing that they're supposed to do, and apparently the things that other teams are looking for, they don't mind paying for, right? Like Mike McGlinchey and guys like that. So, Laken Tomlinson. Like, there's always, remember, no, we can't let Laken Tomlinson leave. Yeah, well, they did. Okay, he's gone.
Yeah, and look
Left
what
a long
happened.
time ago. So
We got some Papa J with the good questions today. Why do the Niners keep pulling for Moody? Is it because they're trying to prove themselves right for picking him as a third round pick?
look at his cap hit. Well, basically, yes. You just answered your own question with that question and the follow up question, which was impressive. But yes, it's not so much they're trying to prove themselves right. They're trying to get through the investment without like having to cut him, because when you have to cut him early, like, you still owe the rest of that rookie contract. That's all guaranteed. Like, Trey Lance was on the cap for a little bit, even after they traded him to Dallas. Like, even those small amounts can add up, and a third round pick, as it gets going, like, yeah, that's going to add up a little bit. Then they'd have to go out and sign somebody on the street. What if they have to sign somebody to a big money deal? You got to pay a little extra for that tax. Anything they can do to develop their own guys and get them to start here so that they lay roots down and want to stay here is good for this franchise. So, yeah, 100%. If you can salvage them, salvage them. They're going to bring in competition. I don't think that it's just a free ride. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
and I think if he starts off next year, if they lose, opening weekend because he shanks another extra point and clangs a field goal, and then he goes out the next week and does the same thing. I don't know how long the leash will be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, if they bring in competition, I mean, hey, they could very well go with the competition and say goodbye to Jake Moody. I mean, they moved on very quickly from Trey Lance.
Yeah, like
So
it
what's to
really
say
is
that they
like
won't do that with Jake Moody?
100%. It's whoever wins the competition in camp, right? So camp's a long ways away. We're going to be about 4 months from today before we start seeing camp stuff. So we got a long way to go between now and then.
True. Well, OTAs is in April. I look forward to that because it's
I
like
look for
it's
I look forward to
some type
OTAs
of
too, but
news, some type of 49ers news.
camp is where it's at, though. That's when
I
the
know.
season really begins. So
Yeah, I know. But I think as far as kickers concerned, they should start earlier the better with competition.
oh yeah,
Leon Sandcastle, what's Dahlman is the priority, but if he prices out, Ryan Kelly is a close second. Okay.
I don't think they're going to go for a second guy. I think if they can get Dahlman for the price they're comfortable with, great. If not, they'll probably do the Hennessy stuff. And
Sonny G,
maybe,
Ryan
just
Kelly,
maybe, they'll.
possible fallback option. Have to do a very good physical on him, though.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want more injury guys. Maybe the 49ers can draft a guy called Alizé, and then on the line you can have Alizé and Hennessy.
Leon Sandcastle, bring Presley Harvin back to compete with Wichnowski. Yeah.
I don't think we're now. Yeah, he's all the special teams is up for grabs this year. This could be a huge turning point for the special teams this year. There might be a new punter. I'd be shocked if they drafted a punter late, and they'll justify it with I have 57 comp picks. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to talk a little wide receiver. But first, we are sponsored by Faithful Gear, made for the faithful by the faithful. Get your customized Niner gear at faithfulgear209.com. And Robert actually came out with a new design for Fred Warner. It is up and running and available now. So again, go to faithfulgear209.com.
That looks
And
like one of those old Sportflix cards. Remember the ones that had the thing on
yeah,
it, and you had to like turn them, and they move, and it went from one screen to the other. That's exactly what that looks like. That's so cool.
yeah, he's starting with Fred Warner, and then I believe Joe Montana is next, and then he's taking requests, as to what player is next. So of course I gave him my request. We could all guess what that was.
I want Deion Sanders high stepping into the end zone against Atlanta. That's what I want. That was
That's
one
a
of the
good one.
greatest FU games in National Football League history.
Yes, Terradome, hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. All right. I think the wide receiver position is getting overlooked. And I know you don't think that we need another wide receiver, but I believe we do.
You don't think I just
Because when
told you
I
that
because a couple
I
shows
think
ago, when I brought up T. Higgins, you were like, nope, we're good.
okay, no. There's a difference. Okay, pardon me. Let me clarify.
Please do.
Can we use some playmakers at wide receiver? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is T. Higgins the answer to that? No. I don't call him T. Higgins. I call him soft tissue injury T. Higgins because that's what he has all the time. Week to week with a hamstring, week to week with a groin, week to week with a hamstring, week to week with the groin. It's one or it's the other. Nope. No. The one or two spike games that he has a year because they decide they want to triple team Jamar Chase are not worth it. We do not have Jamar Chase on this team. Therefore, no thank you. We're getting rid of one receiver who already wants the ball more than anybody else and thinks he needs a fresh start with somebody else. We do not need someone who thinks he should be a number one guy because he really can't be the number one guy. You can't be the number one guy in this offense when Christian McCaffrey is on this team. That's not how this offense works. You can be the number one receiver all day, but you're not the number one guy on this offense as long as Christian McCaffrey's here and they use him the way they use him. This isn't how that's not how it works. That's not how that would work. If they draft, are you cool with them draft? I would love to see them draft a good speed receiver in the second round, like that kid from Texas, Bond. That'd be great. I'd love to see him fall.
Yeah, I could see them drafting a receiver.
But that's what I meant
I
earlier,
would
Jess. When I
actually,
said playmakers earlier, like if they go wide receiver and they think this is not allegedly this is not a great draft for wide receivers.
yeah,
But
yeah.
if they draft a playmaker that they think is going to make a difference and is going to be good, like, I'm down for that. But I love the idea of Warren. I love the idea of Gianti. Oh my goodness. Imagine how much better this team would have been last year. Like the runs that Jordan Mason had, and this is something that I've heard a lot this offseason. Jordan Mason had a really good year, right? Really good year. But you're going to have to give him a raise. And a lot of the runs that Jordan Mason had last year, a lot of folks have said, well, Christian McCaffrey takes it to the house. And if you go back and watch a film on some of them and try to think about it, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. Now you go get a guy like Ashton Gianti from Boise State. who absolutely crushed it. Like, let's say McCaffrey has to miss a game next year, and he comes in and he rushes for 5 touchdowns, which I could literally see happening with that dude. Like, all of a sudden, you've got an actual Sonic and Knuckles. And the cool part is you can put them on the field at the same time because McCaffrey is so unbelievably versatile. Like, he would immediately become one of the best slot merchants in the NFL if that's what he decided he wanted to do. And the cool part is they could be so creative with him, with movements and motions, and putting him into positions to where he could get the ball in space instead of getting beat to crap between the tackles. The rookie do that. Let Garendo do that. You go out and make plays and score touchdowns, Christian. Like, anything we can do to give Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, and this offense a little help, I am totally down with, because high-end offense is always needed in this league. And it has been proven time and time again. Even though you can win with a really good defense, you better have some playmakers on your offense.
I agree. Rob D, I asked for George Kittle, but Kyle Shanahan is a good one too. I'll tell Robert about
What
that.
would be his movement? Just walking slowly on the sideline? Hands on
um,
hips, hand on hip, hand on hip. Like, how does that work?
yeah, I would have to. I don't know, because there's not too many. I'm gonna have to think about that one. Papa J says Travis Hunter.
Yeah, we're gonna get right up into the top 5. I'm sure that's gonna. If I'll actually be stunned if he's not top 3, I'll be floored. Floored.
All right, here's another good one from Papa J. He's not one of those what if kind of guys, but if we had Pooney in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, do you think we would have won that game?
Maybe.
I don't.
Who knows? Does he know the offense as good as anybody else at that point? Who knows? Who knows? I would like to say
Yeah,
I'd like to say that, but
I don't know. I mean, that play where Spencer Burford didn't, block Chris Jones. I mean, that's huge, but there were quite a number of other things that didn't go our way. So, I mean, who knows? Um, Leon Sandcastle wants a wide receiver with elite speed. Rondale Moore, Clark, Tutu, Dillon, Elijah Moore. Any of those guys would be dirt cheap and running the 4.3s. Just a guy to threaten deep and spread out the D.
see, I love that theory, but who are you taking off the field for this guy who's going to run down the field and draw one person? If you're going to go out and get a deep threat, get me somebody who's going to haul ass and is actually going to be a threat and is going to draw a double team. DJ Chark isn't drawing a double team. Ashton Dulin, not going to draw a double team. Get me somebody who's really going to take the top off the defense. Get me somebody who's going to work down the seam and catch things one-handed. I mean, I'm sure he does, but does he know it in that specific position, Papa J? He's jumping from Kansas to the Super Bowl. He didn't play in a Super Bowl level game this year. Like, we don't know. That's a great question. You would think so, but we don't know. We don't know how we would react in that scenario. What if he got hurt in the championship game? We don't know. We don't know.
That's true.
It's a good question, though. Slayton would be a good vet. I think he'd be like a great Chris Conley replacement. I like him out of the slot too. But Juwan Jennings is your 2 this year, right? Possibly your 1.
Well, right, but
if
you have
other stuff happens.
all right. You have Pearsall, Cowing, JJ, and whenever BA comes back. And John Lynch said today, well, apparently yesterday there were people poking around to see if we would trade BA.
Do you know why that's put? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I've been watching this league for a very long time, and I worked in the media starting in 2009. So I try to look at everything through that lens.
Okay.
Worked in it from 2009 to 2018. When those rumors come out, it usually means that the team that has him is trying to work up a market for it. The team that is absolutely like unbelievably like constant about that is the Rams. They're like the people that, like, if they're selling like an old end table, they put it at the end of the driveway with a for sale sign on it. They just can't give it away for free until they can make sure they can get something back for it. It's kind of the same deal. We're going to let Cooper Kupp have nobody's trading for Cooper Kupp and his $20 million cap hit. You literally barely threw him the ball towards the end of the season. It was Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, or bust. That was it. So stop it. You're not doing it. So when that stuff happens, that sounds to me like they are trying to create a market, right? It's like your friends, they're at a party and they're like, we're thinking about selling our house. And they're hoping somebody's like, man, I pay $50,000 more than what you're asking for it. Well, all of a sudden they really want to sell their house. But people are like, good luck. They might not want to sell their house as much. Kind of the same sort of vibe there. But I also, if you, I'm sure you read or heard about the Kawakami quotes this week. This falls in line with them. And for those that don't know, he's got a pretty good line to ownership, however you want to work it. I don't know how it works, but that's how that goes. And both of them talked about there's still some lingering hard feelings with the Deebo stuff and the Brandon Ayuk stuff and the way they handled things. I don't think that's going to go away. I don't think there's any warm, fuzzy feelings between Brandon Ayuk and the San Francisco 49ers right now. I'll be real interested to see how he feels like he's been treated by them since he's got hurt.
Well, as far as injury goes, he does have a marker coming up.
Big
with
one
Dr.
too, apparently.
Yeah. So we'll see. Dr. Elatrosh is down in LA, and he has all his patients go through certain things at certain markers. So BA is one of those candidates for that. So we'll see where he's at when he comes back. But like I said, that wide receiver room right now, Pearsall, Cowing, JJ, and whenever BA comes back. And I'm actually kind of warming up to the idea of Devontae Adams.
Devontae
What do
Adams is
you
going
think
to
about
LA
him?
with Aaron Rodgers. So that's if that happens,
Well,
great. But he's
you
not.
know what? He's still under contract with the Jets, though. So
Not for much longer.
okay.
The new league year starts. So basically, once the combine wraps up, people start getting cut, traded. This is like, to me, the baseball winter meetings, like when they go to Nashville and those, they go to the Upper Land Hotel and they go to the other places. It's the same vibe. They're drumming up their market, and then the action it starts to happen later on this week, or it starts to happen next week. Yeah, that's what I was, and that's why, Sin, I thought that was a 49ers deal, because it sounds to me like they're saying, hey, we totally take this cap hit if you want to give us anything. So,
And you know how much that cap hit is? $41.2 million.
how much was the raise on the cap this year? 31 mil. Yeah, okay. It sucks. I've seen worse. As ridiculous as it sounds. And Sin, I totally agree. I don't that's why I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's more of like a, hey, we're still kind of pissed deal. So I really hope you come back and tear it up next year. I hope he comes back and tears it up next year for his sake, our sake, everybody's sake. Because if he comes back next year and he just replaces Deebo as the guy who drops big passes at big times, which is what happened this year with Deebo at multiple times, he's going to get it worse because of all the BS that happened last year. So I really hope he crushes it next year. I hope he comes out and plays like he played in 2023, maybe even better.
So you think Deebo is gone?
100%. John Lynch said today that there's always an opportunity, but I would expect that if they don't trade him, he'll be cut after June 1st. I mean, John
Yeah,
Lynch pretty much. John Lynch basically said goodbye to him today. Outside of I mean, he left the door open to leave the door open because he's just not the
right,
type of
right.
person to do that. But yeah, 100%. John Lynch said as much today, and it was they want to give him a clean start. He kind of even spun it on Debo, so I'm going to be real interested to see when he finally gives Kay Adams the tell-all, because that's who will get it. What the hell happened? Why the hell don't you want to be in San Fran? Where the hell else are you going to play, bud? Like, I look at Debo like a higher functioning Taysom Hill, right? Like, if you really want to run the production through him, you're going to get a bunch of yardage. But you saw what happened when they took the production from Debo Samuel and they put it into the hands of Christian McCaffrey. What happened to this offense? It was so good, they were able to get through a season with Jimmy Garoppolo and a rookie quarterback out of Iowa State and make it to the NFC title game. And then the next year, they went to the Super Bowl with a second-year quarterback out of Iowa State who was the last pick in the draft.
All right, so let's talk a little quarterback. I was waiting for somebody to bring this up. John Lynch said that it's not a guarantee that they'll pay Brock Purdy. There's no guarantees with anything. There's no guarantees in life. So
nope.
There's no guarantees that for anything. So for him saying that, I wouldn't read too much into that. They want Brock Purdy there for as long as they are there and beyond. Let's finish that quote before
he also didn't he also say
people are saying that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are on the hot seat because they said that, which I addressed a few shows ago.
Didn't he also say that they've already started negotiations with him? Like,
yes.
What? That's what we're focused on? We're focused on the other part? Okay. That deal will be wrapped up by OTAs. I promise you, it'll be wrapped up by OTAs. Brock Purdy is not, yeah. And yeah, there's going to be but not if it's a June 1st cap hit, and if that's the way it goes. It has something to do with the way they do it. And if it's traded, it's not quite as bad either, but he's supposed to be caught with a June 1st designation. If that's the case, it gets spread out over 2 years. It's not as bad. And the cap's already going up 30-something million this year anyways. So.
Right. But something has to happen before March 22nd.
So they could cut him on March. I think they'll just end up cutting him on March 21st unless someone makes a deal. And if the compensation's good enough, like, hey, take all the lottery tickets you need in the draft. You're either going to hit it or you're not, right? No matter what they do, they put in all the same preparation, interview, and everything on every single draft pick. So they think they're going to hit every single one. And then look at how many they actually hit. So, yeah. As many lottery tickets as you can, because they're not going to miss all. And we can already see that they're going to grab other things. And yeah, Stafford. By the way, Matthew Stafford will be the next quarterback of the New York Giants, and then they will sign Cooper Kupp. So it'll be Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Malik Neighbors. I promise you, that will happen. And Kelly Stafford will talk about it on her podcast. She'll be all excited about getting to play in New York, even though they play in New Jersey. And then Matthew Stafford will get to play the 49ers next year.
That's true. Sin says that the Rams said they roll with Jimmy G rather than overpay Matt Stafford. Okay.
Yeah. That was the message that they put out there, which is, that's all.
That works.
They call that saber rattling, right? Okay, sure. Go ahead and do that. Now, I'm sure they say that, but in reality, if Aaron Rodgers says, hey, I'll come play for you for $20 million, which is exactly what I'm guessing he would probably do, especially if you could get Davante Adams there, then all of a sudden you've got Aaron Rodgers, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and Kyren Williams. I don't know how Rodgers plays in that, but those other players are all pretty damn good. So we'll see. I think the Rams think that they can do what they did with Goff and Stafford with Rodgers and Stafford, but in reverse. Does that make sense? Like,
yes.
I think And people be like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Stop trying to reason with it. Okay, that's not what we do here. What we do is we try to look at things the way teams do things and the way they've done things in their history because they've done it before. In this case, what I think they did, in fact, you heard McVay talk about it in a couple of interviews this week. They really did not like the way they handled the Goff Stafford deal. Like they kind of broke up with Goff the same way like the Colts broke up with Baltimore. Like they packed up their vans and left in the middle of the night. Like, and then he looked like the Fresh Prince in the empty living room. Like, and all of a sudden you're in a room in Detroit. Welcome to Detroit, buddy. Get ready to learn Detroit, as Adam Silver would say in that meme. But when you look at that stuff and you look at those things and you're looking at like, I lost my train of thought because I read the thing that Sin put up about Devo and Pearsall. Oh man, we were just talking about it. What were we talking about? Come on, work with me. What?
I was reading the comments.
See, I read the comments. I got to stop. I got to stop reading the comments. Reading the comments. Somebody put in the comments what we were talking about. Yeah. But yes, no, in Devo, like, yeah, a lot of people.
JJ looked better than Devo last year.
I would have loved to see
everybody
Cowing
looked better than Devo last year.
I would have loved to see Cowing get a shot at it. Oh, Stafford. It all came back around.
Yes.
Okay. So they think they can do the same thing, only they're not going to have to pay up for Rodgers like they had to pay up for Stafford. They had to do the first round pick swap thing and everything else. Rodgers is damaged goods, but he knows the offense. And some head coaches are going to think highly enough of themselves. And if you know anything or have understood or have heard anything about Sean McVay in recent times, he definitely thinks he can reach Aaron Rodgers. And I know that if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Rams, they're going to sign Davante Adams. Like that's there's no doubt in my mind that happens.
I'm all for Aaron Rodgers to the Rams.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter how it plays out, because one, I know we can beat them twice, and two, if it goes poorly, for those that are old enough to remember, Joe Namath finished his career with the Rams, and he looked real sad sitting on their bench. So it would be interesting to see Aaron Rodgers end up doing the same thing after leaving New York. So a lot of people were looking for that Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers corollary, but that Aaron Rodgers, Joe Namath corollary might be a little more realistic in this case.
Rodgers is a statue now. Yep. Definitely not what he used to be. Papa J, let's see. What are your thoughts about the Niners having a great year because the first time in a while they have time off to recuperate during the postseason? I think that this is, being that they didn't make the playoffs and, they had extra time off, I think it's beneficial. But I think this is, we have to hit on the draft. If we're going to go through free agency, and sign some, we have to hit on free agency. It's like, this is the year, for sure.
You can't hit singles and doubles in free agency. You can't do another. Javon Hargrave was supposed to be like a game changer, and that
didn't happen.
He was not. He did not live up to expectations. He was definitely missed on that line last year, but yeah, I mean, he's going to go somewhere, and it'll all work out for him, and he'll probably be great wherever the hell else he goes. But he wasn't great here. So maybe he had extra money to spend on food. I'm not really sure what the hell happened, but he was not the same dominant force here that he was anywhere else. So, I mean, Philadelphia went out and won a Super Bowl without him. So maybe we can continue the trend within the next couple of years, win a Super Bowl after you get rid of him. So, but you can't if you're going to go after somebody like that and do something like that, because we all celebrated that move at the time, right? We all celebrated that move because they went out, they spent big, and he was the top defensive tackle on the market, and he was coming off a really good year. And they self-scouted, and they saw what we saw, which was that defensive line needed to get better because it was not that good. Didn't work out, but they took a shot at it. So We'll see if they can do, and maybe they could have covered it up if they had another 3 first-round picks, but they didn't. So here we are.
Kylie says Kocurek, I thought he could motivate anyone. It takes two to tango.
It's not about motivation. Like sometimes it's about talent, scheme, fit, want to. I don't know.
Throwback says Tom Brady wants Stafford in Las Vegas.
That's interesting.
We shall see.
It's interesting
right.
how they're at the same ski resort at the same time. How coincidental.
Yeah. Tight ends, extension talks with George Kittle's camp. Team wants him to retire a Niner. He wants to be in the red and gold till he retires. John Lynch says that's all something we want to see become a reality. I think,
Let's
and
get
he
that
also
done.
said that there's other big things that they need to do before, so the timing and everything. But I think that's huge if they extend Kittle, not only because I love George Kittle, but because of the fact that the money, the cap hit.
Yeah.
I mean, that it would help.
Yeah, and we also the other cool part about this is like, is Kittle going to demand TE1 money, right? Like, is he going to demand to be the highest paid tight end for the next 4 years? I just don't think that's likely. He just doesn't seem like that type of guy. He's going to want something that's fair, that's going to, make the money the way he needs to make it. But at the same time, he also knows that he wants to win a damn Super Bowl. So get me a little help here. So
yeah,
I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about George Kittle. If George Kittle doesn't finish his career with the San Francisco 49ers,
don't even
floored.
say that.
I
Don't
would be
even bring that into
floored.
existence.
There's no, no, stop it.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be extended. When hopefully soon. I hope they get everything done soon. I know they're talking with Dre Greenlaw's camps and Talanoa Hufanga. So we'll see what happens there. Um, the one thing about Christian McCaffrey that John Lynch said was that he would be ready for parts of the offseason program. That wasn't too warm and fuzzy for me. I mean, I'm trying not to read into everything.
He's already back into his training regimen, so it can't be an injury thing. I bet it's just like schedule stuff. I don't think it's. I don't think that's injury stuff. Maybe he's got something he's got to do with Olivia. Like I don't know. Do you see why I want Ashton Gianti in here? Seriously, I'm not kidding.
You know what? I just think that, who knows? You know how like Trent Williams gets the vet day, Nick Bosa does. I think they're kind of ease Christian McCaffrey into everything again.
Hopefully that's what they're doing.
That was kind of my take on it. All right. Anything else before we hit that 2-minute warning?
No.
All right. Let me find it. All right. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for stalling for me so I can look at the 2-minute warning. Thank you. Yes. This is my annual plea to the National Football League to stop making us wait until May for the schedule so that we can all have something to look forward to. I hate it when you do this. It's stupid. Make it stop. Give us a schedule. We want to know where teams are playing. We want to get things booked. We want to get flights booked. We want to get hotels booked. We want to go to these games, and you won't tell us when, where they are. You'll tell us who they're playing, but you won't tell us when. Get your shit together, National Football League. Get the schedules done. Let's speed up this offseason process. We don't need to be diddling around waiting on prospects until a draft in the middle of April. This stuff should be done in March. Let's go. Chop, chop. Make it happen. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Off to Jess.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys were awesome. Thanks for the awesome questions. I'm with Maddie. I'm ready for the schedule to come out. I mean, it used to be like the second week of April around my birthday. And I'm all for them bringing it back like that. But yeah, we have a very favorable schedule this year. really looking forward to them coming in to play the G-men. And that's about it. I mean, we'll see you next week. All 4 of us should be back in action. And as always, go Niners. See you next week. Peace.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.